The galaxy had forgotten peace. For 500 years, the Xilari Dominion and the Vornak Empire had been at war. No one remembered who fired the first shot. No one knew why it started. But the war never stopped. Both sides had powerful fleets. Both had massive armies. And yet, neither could win. Planets burned. Millions died. But every battle ended the same way: stalemate. And the war raged on. The Battle of Talos 9. The cold, dead world of Talos 9 was the latest battlefield. Xilari warships, sleek and silver, clashed with the black, spiked vessels of the Vornak. Plasma cannons roared, energy shields flared, and the space around the planet turned into a graveyard of wreckage. On the ground, soldiers fought among the ruins of an old colony. The Xilari, tall and thin with pale blue skin, moved with precision, their energy rifles firing in perfect formation. The Vornak, hulking reptilian warriors, charged through the smoke, their armor thick, and their plasma blades cutting down enemies in brutal close combat. The battle raged for 3 days. Then, like always, it ended in a draw. Neither side could advance. Neither could retreat. Thousands had died for nothing. And the war continued. A war without end. The Xilari High Command sat in their towering citadel on Xila Prime, watching the battle reports. "Our fleets hold," one general said. "The Vornak lost more ships than we did. But we gained nothing." Another responded, "Just like every battle before this." Across the stars, in the burning halls of Vornak Prime, their enemy had the same conversation. "We have taken ground on Talos 9, a Vornak warlord growled. "For how long?" his second-in-command asked. "A week? A month? Then we lose it again, just like every time before." Both sides knew the truth. The war had become a machine, a cycle that could never be broken. Until something changed. The unknown fleet. 1 month later, near the ruined system of Draken Abyss, a battle was about to begin. Xilari and Vornak fleets faced each other, preparing for another pointless fight. Then, something new appeared on the battlefield. A fleet of unknown warships emerged from hyperspace. Their design was strange, blocky, armored, and heavily armed. They weren't Xilari. They weren't Vornak. They were something else. A transmission echoed across all channels. A voice, calm but firm, spoke. "This war is over. Humanity has arrived." For 500 years, the Xilari and the Vornak had fought. Now, a new force had entered the war. The mysterious human fleet hovered between the two massive armadas, their ships unlike anything seen before. Sleek? No. Elegant? No. Human ships were built for war. Thick armor, heavy weapons, and an aggressive stance that made both Xilari and Vornak commanders uneasy. And then came the message. This war is over. Humanity has arrived. The alien reaction. On the Xilari flagship, High Admiral Veranik narrowed his silver eyes. "Humanity," he repeated. "Impossible. They're a primitive species, barely spacefaring." A science officer checked the database. "Not anymore, sir." On the Vornak dreadnought, Warlord Krozak bared his fangs. "Who do these soft-skinned creatures think they are?" he growled. "They dare to speak as if they control the war." His second-in-command, a younger Vornak, looked at the readings nervously. "Sir, their ships are unlike anything we've seen. Their technology is strange." For the first time in centuries, both sides hesitated. No one knew what to do. Then, the humans moved first. Humanity's first move. Without warning, the human fleet split into two, sending ships toward both the Xilari and the Vornak. Not to attack. To observe. To study. They jammed communications, disabled tracking systems, and moved with military precision that made no sense. A Xilari warship tried to scan them. Its systems fried instantly. A Vornak cruiser locked weapons. Its targeting controls malfunctioned. It was as if humanity knew exactly how to break both fleets without firing a single shot. Panic spread through the ranks. Is this an attack? Are they helping us? Are they helping them? No one had answers, because humanity wasn't here to choose a side. They were here to change the rules of war itself. The first battle with humans. The Vornak, frustrated by the chaos, fired first. A massive plasma cannon blasted toward the lead human battleship. And then, something shocking happened. The human ship didn't dodge. It didn't raise shields. Instead, the plasma bolt curved mid-flight, redirected by some unknown force, and slammed into an auxiliary cruiser instead. The battlefield erupted into confusion. Did they just redirect our weapons? How? The humans still hadn't fired a single shot, and yet they had already won the battle. A new kind of warfare. By the time the battle ended, not a single human ship had been destroyed. Silari and Vornak ships, however, had been forced to retreat, their systems hacked, sabotaged, and disabled. Humanity had done something no one thought possible. They had fought a war without fighting. And won. Both sides were terrified. Because if humanity could do this on their first day in the war, what could they do next? The war had lasted 500 years. It had never changed. Until now. The Silari Dominion and the Vornak Empire had always fought the same way. Massive battles, brutal invasions, endless destruction. But humanity had entered the war, and they didn't play by the rules. The fear of the unknown. On Silari Prime, the High Council was in chaos. Admirals argued over reports of human ships disabling entire fleets without firing a single shot. Our weapons do not work against them, one shouted. They manipulate our systems, break our strategies. Another added. They are a wild card. Across the galaxy, on Vornak Prime, the warlords rage. They trick us. Warlord Krozak slammed his fist onto the war table. They turn our own weapons against us. Then we must attack their homeworld. Another growled. Burn their species before they become a real threat. But there was one problem. No one knew where Earth was. No one had ever seen a human colony before. It was as if humanity had appeared from the shadows of space itself. And that terrified them. The fall of Korath 7. The Vornak launched an all-out assault on the auxiliary colony of Korath 7. They expected a normal battle. They expected resistance. Instead, they found nothing. The planetary defenses were already disabled. Silari soldiers were missing. The supply depots were emptied. And in the heart of the colony, a single human transmission played on repeat. You are fighting ghosts. You are fighting shadows. You are already losing. The Vornak fled. They didn't know what had happened. And that was the worst part. The auxiliary offer. Desperate, the auxiliary Dominion sent a secret message. To humanity. A lone human ship arrived at the meeting point, a black, unmarked battleship. Inside, a human commander named Reed Carter faced the auxiliary ambassador. We cannot win against you, the auxiliary admitted. Not with force. Good, Carter said. Because we're not here to win a war. We're here to end it. The auxiliary's eyes narrowed. How? Carter leaned forward. You've been fighting for 5 centuries, he said, and you don't even know why. The auxiliary hesitated. The Vornak are just like you, Carter interrupted. Trapped, fighting a war that benefits neither side. The auxiliary said nothing. For the first time, they listened. The Vornak's mistake. While the auxiliary hesitated, the Vornak refused to stop fighting. They launched a surprise attack on a human fleet. They thought it would be an easy victory. Instead, they'd vanished. Not destroyed. Not defeated. Just gone. No wreckage. No distress calls. No survivors. It was as if the humans had erased them from existence. And suddenly, the Vornak warlords understood fear. The Vornak fleet was gone. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just silence. For the first time in 500 years, the Vornak warlords hesitated. They weren't afraid of losing a battle. They were afraid of what they didn't understand. And humanity. They still hadn't fired a single shot. The Xilari's decision. The Xilari Dominion had two choices: keep fighting a war they could never win, accept humanity's offer to end it. High Admiral Veranek sat across from Commander Reed Carter, the human negotiator. "Where is the Vornak fleet?" Veranek asked. Carter smirked. "Gone." Veranek's blue skin darkened. "Did you destroy them?" "We didn't have to," Carter said. "They destroyed themselves." Veranek frowned. "I don't understand." Carter leaned forward. "That's the problem," he said. "Neither you nor the Vornak understand us." The Xilari High Command debated for hours. Could humanity be trusted? Could they afford to refuse? In the end, fear made the choice for them. The Xilari accepted humanity's offer. They would end the war. The Vornak's desperation. On Vornak Prime, Warlord Krozek growled at his generals. "The Xilari have surrendered to the humans." "They are weak," one general spat. "No," Krozek said. "They are smart." The Vornak were warriors. They never surrendered. But this war was no longer about strength. It was about survival. And if they didn't act fast, they would be the next ones to vanish. So Krozek made a desperate decision. He sent a message to Earth. A plea. A warning. A threat. "Meet with us, humans, or we will burn every world before you can stop us." The meeting on Shadow 6. The humans chose a dead moon, Shadow 6, as the meeting place. No armies, no warships, just one human envoy. Reed Carter stood alone on the dark, rocky surface. The Vornak warlords arrived, armed and ready. Carter raised an eyebrow. "Are we here to talk or fight?" Warlord Krozek stepped forward. "Where is my fleet?" he growled. Carter smiled. "Safe." Krozek's claws tightened. "Give them back." "You still don't understand," Carter said. "You think this war is about winning." Krozek snarled. "What else is war for?" Carter shook his head. "War is a trap, and you've been caught in it for 500 years. Krozek hesitated. For the first time in his life, a human made him doubt. The truth revealed. Carter took out a small device and pressed a button. A hologram appeared. A map of the war. Every battle, every invasion, every lost world. Krozek's eyes widened. "This is your history," Carter said, "and your enemy." Krozek frowned. "The Xilari." Carter shook his head. "No, the ones who trapped you in this war." The hologram zoomed out. Beyond Xilari space, beyond Vornak territory, to a hidden force manipulating both sides for centuries. And then, Carter said the words that changed everything. "You were never fighting each other. You were fighting them." For 500 years, the Xilari and the Vornak had fought. They believed they were each other's greatest enemy. They were wrong. Humanity had exposed the truth. Someone else had been pulling the strings. Now, Warlord Krozek of the Vornak stood on the cold surface of Shadow 6, staring at the hologram. This cannot be true," he growled. But deep inside, he knew it was. The war had never made sense. Every time one side gained the upper hand, something always stopped them from winning. Supply routes mysteriously collapsed. Fleets vanished in hyperspace. Generals died in accidents. And yet, no one had questioned it. Until now. The hidden manipulators. Carter pointed to the hologram. "This war was engineered," he said, "by a third force." The hologram zoomed in, revealing shadowy fleets, hidden bases in deep space. A name appeared. The Cathari Syndicate, a species that neither the Xilari nor the Vornak had ever heard of, because they had worked in the dark for centuries. Spies, saboteurs, masterminds. They had fed both sides just enough to keep the war going, but never enough to let it end. Krozek clenched his fists. Why? Carter's expression hardened. War is a business, and you've been the product. A war of profit. The Cathari had no empire of their own. They didn't need one. They thrived in the shadows, manipulating war after war across the galaxy, selling weapons, controlling resources, profiting from destruction. Every time the Xilari or the Vornak launched an attack, the Cathari sold supplies to the other side. Every time a battle destroyed a world, the Cathari sent scavengers to collect the remains. The longer the war lasted, the richer they became. And no one had ever noticed, until humanity arrived. The Xilari's response. Across the galaxy, on Xilari Prime, High Admiral Veranik studied the same hologram. Humanity had provided the evidence. Every intercepted transmission, every secret trade deal, every false flag attack that had kept the war alive. Veranik's blood turned cold. "We have been fools," he whispered. For centuries, the Xilari had sacrificed millions in a war that was never theirs to win. But now, with the truth revealed, they would not be fools anymore. The turning point. The Xilari and Vornak had never spoken without weapons in their hands. But now, for the first time, they met in secret, on an abandoned space station. Veranik and Krozak stood across from each other, old enemies. Now, they faced a greater threat. "This changes everything," Veranik said. Krozak nodded. "We will never get back what we lost. But we can get revenge," Veranik said. They turned to Carter. "What is your plan, human?" Carter smiled. "We do what we do best," he said. "We break the game." For centuries, the Cathari Syndicate had controlled the war from the shadows. They had never lost. They had never been exposed. Until now. Now, humanity had broken their secret. And the galaxy was about to change forever. The silent war begins. The Xilari and Vornak were used to brutal, open battles, armies clashing, ships burning, worlds falling. But humanity fought differently. "We don't need a war," Carter said. "We need a surgical strike." They wouldn't face the Cathari head-on. They would erase them from history, just like the Cathari had erased so many others. The first move, the Shadow Fleet, the first human attack came without warning. A secret Cathari shipyard, hidden in deep space, suddenly lost all power. Its security systems turned against their own people. By the time the Cathari could react, the shipyard was gone, obliterated from orbit. No ships had been detected. No soldiers had landed. The attack had been ghosts in the system. The Xilari and Vornak strike back. While humanity fought in the shadows, the Xilari and Vornak did what they did best. They hunted. Xilari intelligence teams tracked Cathari spies hidden inside their government. Vornak warriors stormed Cathari-controlled black markets, burning them to the ground. Everywhere, the Cathari's grip on the war crumbled. And for the first time, the manipulators became the hunted. The Cathari fight back. The Cathari Syndicate had spent centuries perfecting their control. They were not going down without a fight. They struck back in secret. Xilari admirals vanished overnight. Vornak warships exploded in their own hangars. Entire human colonies went silent. No distress signals, no survivors. And then, the Cathari made their final move. They sent a message, a warning, a threat. "Leave us alone, or we will burn the galaxy before we fall." Carter read the message, and he smiled. "They're afraid," he said. "That means we're winning." But the war was far from over, because the Cathari had one last weapon left, and no one was prepared for what came next. The Cathari Syndicate was losing. For centuries, they had controlled the war. Now, their fleets were burning. Their spies were hunted. Their power was collapsing. But they still had one last move, one final weapon. And if they couldn't win, they would make sure no one did. The Cathari's last gambit. A distress signal echoed across the galaxy. A Vornak colony, burning. A Xilari fleet, wiped out. Human settlements, gone. And then came the message. You think you've won. You have no idea what you've unleashed. The Cathari had activated Project Darkfire, a secret weapon they had hidden for centuries. A fleet of planet killer ships, each capable of wiping out entire worlds in hours. If they couldn't control the galaxy, they would destroy it. The final battle. Humanity, the Xilari, and the Vornak had no choice. They joined forces, something that had never happened before. 3 species, once enemies, now stood together for the survival of the galaxy itself. The Battle of the Void Rift was the largest the universe had ever seen. Xilari warships engaged the Cathari in open battle, their energy weapons cutting through the darkness. Vornak dreadnoughts rammed into enemy lines, tearing through the Cathari's last defenses. And humanity. Humanity did what it did best. They outplayed the enemy. As the battle raged, human stealth teams infiltrated the Cathari's command center. Their mission: shut down Project Darkfire before it was too late. The death of the Cathari. Deep inside the Cathari's hidden base, Reed Carter and his team fought their way through. The Cathari were desperate, fighting like trapped animals. But humanity was relentless. Carter reached the control room and saw the countdown. Darkfire would launch in 5 minutes. He didn't hesitate. With a single command, he activated a virus, a human-made program that spread through the Cathari systems like wildfire. Their weapons turned against them. Their ships shut down. Their empire collapsed in real time. And with one last explosion, the Cathari Syndicate ceased to exist. The war finally ends. For the first time in 500 years, there was no war. The Xilari and Vornak had peace, not because they had won, but because they had learned the truth. The galaxy had been played for centuries, and it had taken humanity, a species no one had expected, to break the cycle. On a neutral world, the Xilari, the Vornak, and humanity stood together. Not as enemies, not as conquerors, but as survivors. The war that none could end had finally been broken. Final words: humanity's legacy. As the dust settled, Warlord Krozak looked at Carter. "You are dangerous," he said, "not because of your weapons, but because you see the game that others do not." Carter smirked. "We don't play by the rules," he said. "We rewrite them." And with that, a new era began. One where humanity was no longer the unknown species. Now, they were the ones who had changed everything. Forever.